So welcome to another video, and it's 8 p.m. but today there is no contest. So we're gonna do Scrimba today. Maybe learn some React or maybe do the challenge. Okay, let's do the challenge. I've already done this. Let me decrease the volume so that.
Hello everyone, and welcome to day 5 of Scrimba Challenge Week. Valley and Valentina McValentine are seriously excited because today is the day we announce the grand prize winner on our live stream, 5 p.m. GMT tonight. First, final challenge, the Heart Customizer API. Don't forget, there is a 25% off Scrimba Pro discount available for you at the end of this scrim, so stay tuned for that. But now, the task. You may or may not know that Scrimba has its very own color API, apis.scrimba.com/hexcolors. Your job is to use it to render a brand new background color for the page on each click of this button. If you find this tricky, just head over to hint.md where Valley McValentine has left you a couple of clues. And if you want some stretch goals, how about adding the option to also change the color of the heart? Don't forget, if you solve and share your solution, you could be in with a chance. So it's 3:30 p.m. GMT tonight. And here's that 25% off Scrimba Pro discount.
Even after the 25% discount, it's really expensive. Okay, let's solve this then. I don't know how to make an API call. Okay, maybe we can use Udemy course. To actually learn JavaScript. Hmm.
So how can you send a HTTP request then? It all starts with creating a new XML HTTP request object. And I'll name it XHR, that's the name of my constant. And with new XML HTTP request, you create such an object. So that's the starting point. This object will allow you to send.
Let's try this. Const char is equals to new XML. HTTP request.
HTTP requests, it is built into the browser, and all browsers support to send HTTP requests. It is built into the browser, and all browsers support this object. It has really good browser support. Now, to send a request or to get started, we need to configure the request. And the first step for that is to use our object, so XHR, this constant which holds the object, and call the open method there. Now, open sounds like it opens a connection or anything like that. Actually, it does not do that. By calling open alone, no network activity will be started. It's just the first step towards configuring the request. Open takes at least 2 arguments here, and the first one describes the HTTP method you want to use. Now here, that's get, because you want to send a get request. So you pass a string with the value get as.
Okay. Let me do that. get, then a URL probably. URL should be https://apis.scrimba. This should be like in the string, right? And then what?
As a first argument to open to send a GET request. And as you saw, if we send a request to this URL, I said the browser would automatically send a GET request. We get back this data, and this actually...
Okay, let's see what data do we get back out of this one. Colors. This might actually take some arguments. If you see this page, any website says or further configuration is required for all documentation. Some load balancing.
It looks like a list of posts we could work with. So let's send a GET request. Now we need an additional argument here, and that's the URL to which you want to send that request. So here that's a number string, and here you can paste in that URL to which the request should be sent. So in this case, the URL we just used in the browser. With that, we basically configured the request. We informed the XHR object which kind of request we want to send to which address. Now in order to send it, we have to call XHR send. This will send the request.
Okay. So XHR dot send. This will send the request. And then
Now if we save that and we go back to our page and we reload, did something happen? Well, we can find out in the developer tools by going to the network tab there. If you go there, you'll see any network requests that are sent. Now if you clear that and you reload, you see here we got a bunch of requests that are sent tab there. If you go there, you'll see any network requests that are sent. Now if you clear there, if you go there, you'll see any network requests that are sent. Now if you clear that and you reload, you see here we got a bunch of requests being sent. And if we have a look at the requests that were sent, we see the index.html file. That makes sense because that was loaded. We see the CSS file. Also makes sense. We need that. That was loaded as part of the HTML file. Same for app.js. This script also needed to be loaded. But then we have this request here at the bottom. And this was not to a file, but this was to this URL we entered. And if we click on that, we can inspect this request. And here we actually see, wait, shrink this a little bit. Here we see the data that was returned by the request, which in this case is a list of dummy post data. If we click on headers, we see the configuration of the request. We see it was a GET request to this URL. We see the headers that were attached to the response. These are attached by the server when it sends back a response. And we also have the request headers. These are the headers that were attached to our request. Now, of course, we didn't specifically add our own headers, but the browser attaches some default headers, like the user agent, for example. So the request indeed was sent, and we got back some data. Now we just need to find out how to use that data, and for that we first of all have to understand the data format. Now, the format of the data is really important. You exchange data between your client side and the server side in a certain format. And technically, there are no restrictions. You can send plain text, you can send HTML markup, you can send XML markup, you can send CSV files, or as you typically do, you use this data format which is called JSON. JSON looks like this. If you click on response, you see the raw response, and JSON stands for JavaScript Object Notation. Indeed, as you can tell, this looks a lot like JavaScript objects in an array, and JSON is derived from JavaScript data types, from arrays and objects in JavaScript to be precise. It's almost the same, but there are a couple of differences. In JSON, you can only store data. You can't have methods in there. You can't send functions to a server. In addition, your property names have to be wrapped between double quotes. It must be double quotes, and it has to be wrapped. So user ID without quotes would not be allowed. It also would not be allowed with single quotes. You need double quotes. Now, as values, you can use numbers, booleans, strings, other objects, or arrays. That's supported. Null is also allowed. And then this is basically it. This is how the data looks like. You can use numbers, booleans, strings, other objects, or arrays. That's supported. Null is also allowed. And then this is basically it. This is how the data looks like. You can also have nested objects and nested arrays. This is all allowed. And this is how the data is transferred between the two ends. So here we received data in this JSON format. It would now be nice to parse that from the response so that we can actually output it on the page at a later point of time. Now for that, let's see, how can we get to the response here when we send a request? We have to wait for the load event, which is fired automatically once the data is loaded, so once the request completed. And we do so by setting up an event listener, basically. However, XHR does not always support add event listener. Older browsers don't support that. I think Internet Explorer does not support it at all. And therefore, the more common way of listening to that is to assign a function to the event handler, to xhr.onload. To this property, you assign a function, and you saw this syntax in the events module where I showed you that this is an alternative to adding event listeners. Here, we should use that because add event listener is not broadly supported. And here we can connect a function written in any syntax you want. Here I'm using the function expression syntax that handles the incoming response. Now we don't receive the response as an argument here, however. Instead, we can extract it on the xhr.response key. Now let's console log xhr response here and see if that works. If we tweak the code like this, and we then reload here, this looks pretty good. It was very fast because it's a fast API, but this looks pretty decent to me. This is the output JSON data which was fetched from the server. And that's important. This is not a native JavaScript array with which we could work. It's JSON data.
Let's take a hint. Okay. Count equals 1. How would we know that without seeing this end or ending? By set property. On load, or we can just, is this a function or what? On load. So when the data loads, this function will be executed, and this will be given parameters. The function parameters, it will take basically the response, right? And they are console logging the response, but we will like alert it because there is no console right there. Alert. Okay. Nothing's happening. Okay, we got something. Amazing. Okay.
If you would try to store that list of hosts from XHR response, you would not be able to, for example, push a new element there. If you try to do that and you reload, you see you get an error because XHR response gives you JSON data, not an array you can use like that. In order to use it, you have to an array you can use like that.
Wait, what is this dot push method? So it's an object, right? So it's not an array. Then why is he adding? So how to append a new property to an object? How do we do that?
In order to use it, you have to convert the JSON
Can we do that for JSON?
data to JavaScript types, to JavaScript arrays and objects and so on. And JavaScript has a built-in helper that helps you with that. It has a built-in JSON constructor function or class, which has a couple of static helper methods, parse and stringify. Stringify helps you convert JavaScript code.
Stringify. Stringify. Okay. Maybe what I can do is dot JSON. We can do this, and then we can run this. Click change. Unknown error. Okay. So maybe we can't do this then. Then JSON dot parse valid JSON string. Okay, let's save this. Token. I did not even give a less than. Okay, let's see what.
Or JavaScript objects and arrays to JSON data, and parse helps you convert JSON data back to JavaScript. So here we can parse the XHR response, and now if we console log list of hosts, we should have a JavaScript array with which we could work. So if we now save that and we reload, this looks better.
But why did this not work? Please don't say unknown error. Come on.
This now really is a JavaScript array, and you see, for example, the double quotes around the property names are gone. This is now really JavaScript data with which we can work. Now, important, you can manually parse it like this, and I wanted to show you this JSON helper object. Actually, there is a little convenience built into the XML HTTP request object. If you set XHR response type here to JSON, and it has to be exactly this term, then this will automatically be parsed for you. So then if you would duplicate this line, you could store the response without manually parsing it, because it will be parsed behind the scenes for you if you add this extra configuration. So now,
Okay. XHR dot response type is equals to JSON. Then we can actually ignore this. Hello XHR dot response. Okay, we got an object, right? But why was that not working? Like this. If I remove this, and then remove this. Please work. Oh, this also works now. There's some problem with the Scrimba editor.
with this code, if I reload, we'll have the same result as with the manual parsing. It's important to be aware of that. JSON
So now that we have our object, now what we can do is assign it to something, right? So assign it to an object, and it had a colors property, right? I don't know. Yeah, maybe colors property. Right. Colors. Colors equals object of colors. Please work. And here I can say is this, come on, decrease the size of your error. Can't even see the error. Unexpected token less than.
parse helper functionality though, because often you will need that. Not always you can pre-configure it like this. So now we got this list of posts. Outputting it in the console is nice. So now though, because often you will need that, not always you can pre-configure it. It's helper functionality, manual parsing. It's important to be aware of that. JSON parse helper functionality though, because often you will need that. Not always you can pre-configure it like this. So now we got this list of posts. Outputting it in the console is nice. How can we output it in the index.html file? Well, there we got the unordered list with a class of posts, and there I want to output it, and I got this template which holds a list item which I want to use. And there I want to file. Well, there we got the unordered list with a class of posts, and there I want to output it, and I got this template which holds a list item which I want to use for outputting it. Now to do that, we can add a new constant here, list element, for example, and get access to it with document query selector, and then select by the posts class because we'll only have one element with that class on the page.
Now that part is done. Right, so we have an object, but I'm unable to access any property of that object. Let's see what this does. Nothing. List alert something. Why is this not working? Crap. Oh crap. Come on, reload.
And just to remind you,
Let's run this. Hello. Now let's display colors. Undefined. Okay. Let's see colors. Then run it. An object and an object. So it's probably an array of objects, and each object has a property of value, I guess. So we can actually get 0th element and then dot value. So this would be our color, right? Let's see what color do we get. Oh, we got a color. Now we just have to change that color based on this. But one thing that I am unable to do is, okay, do we have to do it everything inside onload? Can't we go outside this and do something? Like, why is this not working? This is my doubt. How will we do this? Okay, set property. Or can't we do like body and body is like a variable here, so we don't have to do document dot body, and dot style dot background equals color, and yeah, that's done, I guess. Okay, that works. Oh no, why is this still allotting the color? Let's see if this is happening somewhere. So this has no point. Load something. Let's run this. Oh no, our app crashed. Oh no. Hey, now run this. It works fine. Let's load here. Run this. Run this. Hey, how do I get this response outside of this function? I don't know. Yeah, but we did what was asked for, right? We did it. But why does this not work? Oh, this also works. Okay, we can submit. Ready for tomorrow. Survey Scouts, Shanhan07, Shubham, Pratik, Nats. Nice. Andy Sloan. Yagni, you ain't gonna need it. Literally a shape rotator. Made this like 8 years ago and was never really happy with it, but posting it anyway. Oh my god. This is like amazing, bro. How can you not be happy with it? These are like small hashtag symbols. RGB colors. Why is he not happy with it? At least it has colors. Oh no. That's why this guy is asking how to compile. No, it looks fine. At least you coded something. Yeah, that's not like at least you coded something. It's like amazing, bro. I'm literally a shape rotator. I love this ASCII trace. A shape rotator, by the way. Oh, so Yagni is the best coding advice. Nice. What does that mean exactly? You ain't gonna need it. What does that mean? Yagni. You aren't gonna need it. Doesn't. Some capability we presume our software needs in the future should not be built now because you are not gonna need it. Okay. Weird. But yeah, I forgot I was recording, and thanks for watching. That was it for the day 5. Let's do some React then, or maybe something more easier.